So the subject of today will be how to know your farmers, the way towards full traceability. In brief, the agenda of our presentation is I will give an overview of organic markets and traceability in general, and PRONATEC's cocoa value chain in the Dominican Republic, together with Yacao, and the main part will be the digitalization project at our subsidiary Yacao and cooperative Fundopo. And I also will show you how the digitalization is at PRONATEC here in the head office and results in the end. So about organic markets and traceability. Actually, it has always been kind of a standard in organic market to have a whole value chain traceability, because the main reason why one has to wants to have organic products is the lower impact on the environment, and if it's also fairly traded, the social setup of the production, and it's mainly about the production and it's also there that most of the criteria and the biggest complexity is linked to how it's produced. But as it's usually not the raw materials that are eaten, since the very existence of organic standards, there has always been standards that were also linked to the traceability that are also checked. So every warehouse who is storing organic product has to be organically certified. So actually traceability has always been there with organic products. So one could say, so what, it's everything's done, everything's fine. But there are two issues that are fully normal. That for one thing is that usually the traceability is maintained only for one step at one step at a time. So the warehouse knows what's coming in, what's going out, but it it doesn't know exactly 3 steps ahead where it had come from and who's going to eat it. And together with that, it's also each actor along the chain has his own system. Some are paper-based, some are included in a traceability system, etc. It's quite a high diversity, and we will show you the way we are able to do that because we go back to the very farmer. First, to warm up a bit after the snow in my background, let's go a bit to Dominican Republic a first time. So why cocoa from the Dominican Republic? This island is very suitable for cocoa in general because of the climate and the soil type and the relief as well. And because it's still mostly smallholder farming and agroforestry, it's particularly suitable for organic production because it's high also agronomic biodiversity. And PRONATEC has been involved in the very pioneering work of organic farming, organic production of organically certified cocoa. So in 1999, it has founded its subsidiary Yacao. And in this dynamics, it was also Fundopo that had been found by local smallholders. So it's Fundación Dominicana de Producción Orgánica with their organic and fair trade certification as well. Today, Yacao has grown a lot, so it's about 100 permanent staff, plus about around 100 that are covering the seasonal peaks. They are working mainly in the 4 different centers. So it's Navarrete, Yamasa, and the main center in Medina. And there is also a 4th center with a processing partner in El Seibo. Fundopo, the farming cooperative, consists of 3 different farmers organizations with altogether more than 2,000 farmers, of which roughly a 1/5 are women, and they cover a range of almost 11,000 hectares of agroforestry land with cocoa honey. The whole chain is certified with various organic and fair trade certificates, certifications, and it's able to produce roughly 5,000 tons of high quality cocoa every year. It depends what sometimes more, sometimes a bit less. And the cocoa value chain in PRONATEC, not only in the Dominican Republic, but also from the other destinations, is quite a short one actually, because it comes from the farmer who delivers his cocoa either directly or through middlemen to a collection system where it's centrally fermented, usually centrally fermented, right, and centrally packed and prepared for import, where it's taken over by us and sold either as raw material, as semi-finished products like cocoa butter, cocoa powder, and cocoa mass, or processed further and then sold as couverture or chocolate bars. The processing first step towards cocoa butter powder and cocoa mass was done, so is currently done still by external partners, and we are setting up our own factory in Switzerland for covering this step internally, and further and all the other transformation are done with external processing partners, but the goods are staying in our management. So that's the system limits. So it's in the Dominican Republic, it's Yacao. He's handling the buying up of the mostly raw cocoa, the fermentation, drying, packing, quality control, etc., to the import or export from Yacao's perspective, and then it's handled by PRONATEC. If we now focus on Yacao's part, so it's farmers, a collection who picks up the goods either directly to the farmers or the middlemen. To show it more, to have it look like a bit more realistic, it's rather like that. So it's different size. It's farmers who are delivering it. No, it's collection goes pick up the goods, and bigger, smaller farmers, and at middlemen who have bought up goods from farmers as well. And centrally there is fermentation, drying, and the quality control, packing, and the export. Now, middlemen is usually there is quite a negative connotation around this work, and that's why we would like to deepen that aspect a little bit. I give over the presentation to Roman Hipper, who will give you a bit more detail from the field about this subject.
Hello, everybody. It is a pleasure for me to share information about traceability in PRONATEC and Yacao. So, as Nicolas said, in our business, it is always a critical point whether to buy from a middleman or directly from the producer. In general, we prefer to purchase directly from the producer. But since we buy from smallholder farmers and their farms are often at remote places without access to any road, middlemen raise naturally. So also middlemen have an important job in any community. They help their suppliers out with loans when they have financial problems, and they pre-finance crops. But they also look for their own benefits and try to pay as little as possible to the producer. They are hard to control, but with our increasing digital controls and tools, we can cope with the situation each time better. Also, we have to emphasize that the competition in cocoa in Dominican Republic is tough and has converted into a seller's market. In general, producers have more power than buyers. So the farmers usually don't have the possibility to ferment and dry their cocoa. So if they harvest fresh cocoa, they bring the small quantities to the middleman. depends. If the producer is quite big, then he has bigger quantities. But since we're working in fair trade economy and with small producers, oftentimes they have only small quantities, so they bring it to the middleman. We try to then pick up the fresh cocoa daily in order to achieve best quality within our own production facilities. The middleman is obliged to inform us where he purchased the cocoa from. So that's what we will see more in detail later. Nicolas?
Yeah, I'll take over. So the whole system is set up in a way that that the farmers group has the certification as a group. So every farmer is checked whether he is complying to the organic and fair trade criteria. And this whole thing is managed with the internal control system that is managed by the farmers cooperative. So they need to know exactly which farmer is member of the cooperative, of course, and they have to make sure they're informed and they maintain these criteria, and they need an internal audit system that makes sure it works. That's the basis for every other any other step. Of course, the middlemen are known by us as well. And then in practice, every transaction is documented with a receipt. So whether the collection is picking up is beans at the farmer or at the middleman, there is a receipt and a payment. And also between the farmer and the middleman. And of course, the whole documentation, the whole fermentation, drying process, the quality control, that's all documented as well. And also with the export, of course. And this gives a huge load of paper that is packed in neatly stapled, how do you call that? Well, documentation systems, but it's all paper-based, and it's that's the basis for the yearly audits from the external institutions. So the ones that would account when there's the audit coming for the organic or the fair trade certification, they check a certain amount of the farmers on the field, but they also have a look at the documentation, whether everything is all right. So far, the quality was fine for this, was sufficiently good to maintain the audits and the standards. So that was not the reason that the pressure was not so much from this side, but more that the practicability. Also, we realized that in case of quality issues, it was a lot of work to go back step by step and find out what to deepen the know-how about how something could have come, and to develop countermeasures to to cope with quality issues. So the main reasons why this digitalization has been started was that in the start, the ICS data from the farmers cooperative had quite a bad quality. Sorry, I'm lucky that virus don't spread through the internet that way. And the link between the farmer and the middleman, that was clearly the weak link in the whole documentation process. So this paperwork had the lowest quality of everything, and was hampering quite a bit of our wishes to improve quality and transparency. And of course, just the practicability. It's paper-based. It's there, but it's paper-based, so it's hard to analyze. And as always, when it's too much information, it's prone for mistakes. So let's digitalize that whole thing. We will give you more insight what happened on the field, what it meant on the field. But in the start, let me first show you a little video who show. Hope you enjoyed the view. I'll hand over to Roman Hipper for the insights of the digitalization project in Yacao.
Yeah, thank you. So after having seen a bit of what we're doing here in Dominican Republic, let's go a bit more into detail. In order to be able to fulfill traceability, first of all, we need to know all our producers and have their certification data up to date. As we saw, we buy directly from many producers, but also collect cocoa from middlemen who buy from small producers. In this case, there's a huge challenge to find out where the cocoa we collect originally came from. Once we have the purchased cocoa at our production facilities, we need to track the path through the production process. Once all this data is gathered, we need to analyze the data and make it accessible to the different parties in order to comply with the different standards and requirements. Nicolas? Since we have about 2,000 small and mid-sized cocoa producers, we have quite a lot of audits to conduct throughout the year in order to visit each and every one of the producers. Also, we give them some technical skills and attention. To be able to have the inspection results immediately and to react to eventual non-conformities, we use a digital internal control system. Depending on the severity of the non-conformity, we can remove the producer from the program and stop purchasing from him or her. The digital internal control system also enables us to organize our auditors efficiently. Just imagine when we used to do that all paper-based, and if you do it on a paper, it can take days or weeks until the information that somebody didn't comply with the standards reaches the main office, and then consequences can be taken. So with the digital solution, we have that information within hours. Our system allows us to print traceability lists for each middleman. Means whenever we go and collect cocoa, we have these lists at the middleman's place. Later on, we will see one example. Depending on the certificate each producer owns, he or she appears on the list or not. This list is handed out to the middleman, who then fills it out in order to inform us concerning the origin of his produce. When we pick up the cocoa, we register the reception and take a photo of the traceability list, what you can see here on the photo. Next, please. Once the data is uploaded to the system, staff in the office digitalize the information. It is as simple as typing in the code and the quantities of the received cocoa. You can see it on this picture. What is in the green box is passed from one side to the other. Now we know exactly where the cocoa came from. Although our production lots are extremely small, cocoa is blended in order to be able to conduct a proper fermentation and drying. In the end, our system allows us to know the proportion of each producer at any time of production or export. So let's make an example and remember that Javier Moises, which is the guy on top, delivered 390 out of 2,372 kilos of fresh cocoa, roughly 16%. It is important to know here we're talking about fresh cocoa. So it was just harvested and it's not dry. It's still fresh and the water flows out. So then we receive it at our production facility. Next slide, please. We receive it there and then we unload the cocoa and we put it into different fermentation batches. So here you can see on the second line, there were 1,009 kilos who went into fermentation, and then 2 lines below, there is the next fermentation process, another 842 kilos. So we had 2 lots here, and the result of that went into a natural drying process, a sun drying process. And you can see the number, it's 131906. So it went into the same batch. And after drying this cocoa, then we can see it on the next slide. There are 868.8 kilos resulting out of this drying, and that's what we pay to the middleman. And now we can calculate what we have been seeing before, the 16%, which are from Javier Moises. Now we know that he delivered 16% out of those 868 kilos. And that is important. Why? Because on one hand, we need to know that for any export container, we need to be able to track it back to the producer and make a list out of the export container. And also, there is one concept which we call maximum quantities. Maximum quantity is each producer, depending on the size of the field, can deliver a certain amount of kilos per year. And he can't exceed, he should not exceed this amount. If he exceeds a little bit, it's possible then that the crop was better this year than last year or than usual. But if it's doubled or tripled, then it is possible that he just buys cocoa from the surrounding fields and declares it as its own, which we don't want, because we certify him and we know that he doesn't apply any chemicals and he is complying with our standards. But since we pay more for the cocoa, there is a motivation for our producers to get cocoa from other people. So the maximum quantities for us are very important in order to comply with the standards. That's one point we will see later on. And the third point for those quantities, why it is important, is to be able to pay the primes, like the organic incentives, and also the Fairtrade primes. So in the last years, it took us months to calculate exactly what each producer delivered. And since we didn't have information exactly, we had to go on the field and to find out who delivered which quantities. But since 2 years, since we are working with this system, at the end of the crop, we already know exactly who delivered which quantities. So right now, yesterday was one day we paid those incentives, and tomorrow and on Friday there will be in 2 other regions will be paying this money to the producers. We just finished the last crop on the last of September, so to be able to make the payment within 6 weeks is, for us, it's very, very quick. Usually it took us 12, 15 weeks. So yeah, here you can see another detail about the maximum quantities. So we have in our systems, we do know in real time which producer delivered which quantities, and as soon as we detect that somebody gets close to his limits or exceeds the limits, then we deactivate this person from our system, and then we have to reprint the lists. And here you can see one of those lists. That's what we bring to our middleman, and we take away the old lists and leave new lists there, and make sure that the middleman uses this list and he doesn't buy from people that are like, let's say, deactivated on this list. Another maybe interesting point for you is that since 2 years we also register the GPS point of each transaction we do on the farms. So each cocoa reception, you see the orange dots on the map. Those are receives of cocoa, and also each payment of money, each contract we do on the field. Whenever it is put into our offline mobile app, then it is registered, and a GPS dot also is registered and sent to our system. So we know if our receiver really went to the place to receive the cocoa or he doesn't. So that's another control mechanism to be sure that what we pick up is really from the place we want to buy it from. So in the last 2 years, we achieved to be able to purchase and bill cocoa deliveries automatically with 5 different purchase methods. We developed offline mobile applications for the field and introduced a completely digital production system, which are the foundation of the different calculations, reports, and billing systems. We are able to monitor in real time the incentives and fair trade premiums each producer. Also, through the usage of barcodes and our fully digital production system, we can tell exactly where each delivery went through the production. To be more efficient, we are starting to use offline mobile apps in the whole production process as well. So that means that each lot that is moved within the production process, we can do that just by a simple click on the mobile phone. Here you can have a glimpse of the traceability data of an export container, which is generated automatically. Through the usage of our system, we decreased our administrative effort and can now focus on the really important things. Nicolas? So Nicolas is muted.
Thank you. So thank you, Roman, for the insight. And so that's from the side of Yakao when the things come in the system of PRONATEC. So PRONATEC handles then the traceability along its chain. So and when it comes in, it gets into the warehouse, the quality management in the warehouse, and then the processing along the process, different processing steps and processing in locations. And there it's more straightforward because as everything is inside our ERP system, we have included all the traceability information in there. So as we are working with the ERP system OPAC since 2018. And here, this is an example of couverture production. So couverture, it's like the chocolate already. It contains various products of cocoa. So we can see that here the cocoa mass has been produced from these cocoa beans a lot, and this butter has been produced from these cocoa bean lots. And then there is sugar and also the vanilla powder that has been produced from these vanilla cut lots. And there is sugar from 3 different lots inside this couverture production, along with milk powder that, of course, is maintained separately. We don't produce it ourselves. So in the end, this gives us a very interesting setup where we have, for the case of the Dominican Republic, we have an automatized full physical traceability back to the very farm gate of the cocoa production. And this gives us, for the Dominican cocoa, the possibility to have a much more targeted quality development. So if there is any kind of issue, we can apply different measures like adapting the audit frequency in certain regions, or make much more targeted capacity building for, be it for the farmers or the processing center staff, and have a deeper look at the processes. It gives us a much higher level of value chain safety, also because of the whole information transparency. The price transparency that has also been developing through that whole system is now reaching really back to the farm gate and is improving the bargaining power of the farmers in that seller's market that it is today, luckily. And the automized full traceability is for the other destination producing regions outside of the Dominican Republic for cocoa, so from Peru and Madagascar and our other producers, we track it back to the cooperative. So we know from which region in the country it comes from. We don't know. We don't track it back to the farm gate, but we track it back to the cooperative for all the other cocoa producers and also for the sugar, vanilla, etc. And this gives us huge efficiency gain, not only for PRONATEC and Yagao, but also for the farmers cooperative Fundopo. That would have been difficult to reach for one of the three institutions itself. And all in all, what we aim at is the higher trust also towards our customers. So to have it illustrated, it's like when for each container that comes from the Dominican Republic, we know how many kilograms from each farmer has been put into that 25 tons of full container of cocoa beans. And of course, we know the track it has taken up to our processing facility in Switzerland. And together with the almost same traceability information for sugar and the other cocoa products, the cocoa butter and the vanilla, this gives us a very profound overview over where the products from our chocolate and other products comes from. That was the inputs I wanted to give you, so thank you very much for your attention so far.